Hello, and welcome to a live pop culture on Deprogram with Keri Smith. I am one of your hosts, Keri, and I'm here with. I was waiting for you to say your name.
Oh, oh, it's one of those things. Okay. I'm Mystery Chris, I think. Yeah.
Still a mystery?
Yes. For
Still an
now.
enigma? Uh, Thank you for joining us tonight. Sorry we are a little bit late. Had some technical difficulties. Cheeky Mayor, if you're around, I was having trouble with my Telegram. That's why I was sending links and they weren't going through. So, anyway, we're here now. By 9 minutes. Yes, sorry. And there's not even a town siren to blame it on at this time of night. But welcome. If it's your first time here, this is a live show we do every Wednesday, myself and Mystery Chris, and we just tackle different pop culture topics and hang out with you guys and have conversations. And if you are a returning audience member, fellowship member, whatever you want to call yourself, of deprogram, then I should mention. I'm not good at this. We should just record something where it says, if you like the show and you come back lots of times and you want to consider supporting, you can share the links. You can visit the locals. You can financially contribute on Patreon, here on YouTube, or on Subscribestar or locals. And you can join our book club, which we're going to be reviving soon. I'm sorry it fell by the wayside the past couple months. But thank you guys so much for being here. We have a pretty creepy, interesting, I think it's interesting topic tonight. And that is My Little Ponies. Were you ever a fan, Mystery Chris?
Was I? No. I was never a fan. I know next to nothing about My Little Ponies. I just assume they're like cartoon horses that poop out rainbows or something. Is that pretty accurate?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're like
Okay.
Care Bears, but ponies.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know next to nothing about them.
Kevin, no, that book we have not done yet. We're going to be scheduling it soon. So you have not missed it. I thought at first you were making a ponyrology pun on My Little Pony. But okay, so this isn't something that you watched, but me being a girl, it was something I was into in the 80s. I watched the cartoon occasionally. I did have some of the My Little Ponies, and I had a Care Bear. So I was a Gen X, part of that generation, and I saw some people in the chat before we got here saying they had a bit of nostalgia about My Little Pony, and I do as well. I think a lot of us have nostalgia about the 80s, which is do you ever find that weird, by the way, that we are nostalgic about that decade?
No, I don't, because the culture now is just not nearly as good as the 80s. The 80s was like a perfect storm of everything. Like, just look how often it's mined for, clothing, for music, for, movies, how many remakes they're making currently of old 80s movies. It was just a decade where it's just so rich in pop culture, and probably overall, I think that the height of pop culture in terms of types of movies, uh, types of music. We talked about rap on one of our previous episodes, and that was a musical genre that was emerging into the mainstream in the 80s. So it was just a very exciting time. There's also a lot of corny stuff from the 80s, things that didn't age too well, but things that still seem enduring,
Mhm.
because they're a lot of it was still kind of wholesome, even though it's like really cheesy. Less like Full House, Full House episodes is like
Oh,
so cheesy, but you're like, oh, I gotta remember you back when Uncle Jesse had a mullet. Oh,
did you ever think, though, Anthony and I were talking about this the other night, when the 80s were happening, did you ever think that we would be nostalgic for it? Because he was saying, at that time, there was a lot of nostalgia for the 50s, like 30 years prior. There were
mm-hmm.
movies coming out like Stand By Me and Back to the Future, one of your favorites. There were movies that were set in the 50s, and there was a lot of nostalgia for 50s music and culture and entertainment. And he said he remembered thinking nobody will ever feel this way about the 80s. And now here we are, and we do feel that way about the 80s.
Yeah, at the time, no, but looking back, these decades into nostalgia tends to go in these cycles, these 20 to 30-year cycles. And so you notice with the 90s, there was a lot of stuff calling back to the 60s, a lot of music. You look at some of that grunge stuff that was calling back to 60s, or garage rock and punk. And even a lot of the Afrocentrism of hip hop culture was calling back to Malcolm X. Malcolm X, the movie Spike Lee came out, and that was like 93, yeah, 30 years ago
Yeah.
now. And so, yeah, you kind of see these cycles, but now we're kind of slowed down. And I think we're just in this weird thing, this weird cycle where we're just going to keep remaking the 80s and 90s. Because I always ask people like this, like, my theory is that you can judge the quality of a decade by how well it's commodified. Because if you have, say, a party,
Mhm.
50s party, you have a clear idea of what people are going to wear and music and all that. 60s party, 70s party, 80s party, particularly 80s, since there's so many different options of hairstyles and
Mhm.
wardrobes and stuff. 90s a little bit, but
Yeah.
then as you get into 2000, it starts to slow
Yeah.
down. It becomes less distinct to the
Yes.
point to where 20 years from now, do you think people are going to be having 2022 parties? I mean, what
Maybe.
would they do? Wear a mask? That's like the old.
Yes. If we pivot out of this craziness in culture and we go, where we should, and we look back as a culture, maybe after you and I are long gone, and say that was insane, they will be wearing blue hair wigs, they will be, dressing themselves up to look, as if they don't have a gender, and they will be wearing masks.
Yeah, yeah,
And that'll
that's
define, like, 30 years, even though
mhm,
that's not accurate, but you're right, because starting in the 2000s, it's like I can't really think of any if you go to a 2000s party, like, wait, how are you gonna dress?
mhm. And it's also the quality of, say, like, photos. Something small you don't really think too much about, but that does kind of say not say a lot, but it reinforces the passage of time. And when you look at, say, like a photo from the 60s or 70s, it's got certain color to it, certain grain to it. 80s, Polaroids came about, very popular stuff. But now, since the past almost 20 years now, we've had crystal clear HD images from digital cameras, cell phone cameras, HD TV. I mean, 20 years from now, people looking back at TV from now, I mean, quality wise, in terms of the view of it, is that going to look tremendously different? I mean, if they have 3D like virtual reality or something, sure, but still, the quality is just so crisp and clear that it doesn't really date itself by the image alone. You'd have to judge it by what's in that image to date it.
Of course, I can't imagine with the way things are going now, how what the future's gonna look like. I tend to think nobody will be nostalgic for this time period, but maybe we will look back and say, "Oh, those were the last decades we were human." How sad.
Yeah.
We'll be in our pod, like, on the Matrix, hooked up
Yes.
with, like, a feeding tube, like, "Oh, remember when we got to go outside in our bodies?"
But
Okay.
I also thought it was weird too when you think about it, how when you do genealogy now, you're finding like old pictures of your great grandparents and stuff, and it's all like old brown photo, gray photos, black and white, and it's all like scratched up and stuff. And then like 20 years from now, or 50, 100 years from now, if we have kids, they'll be looking back, seeing like at least me getting drunk on 6th Street in college. They're like, oh, there's old granddad Mr. Chris getting drunk on 6th Street.
Yeah, the photos
I
that they're
sure love to drink.
right, everything's online too.
That's just weird though, because you see like pictures of your grandparents. It's like usually it's like dignified
Mhm.
and they're just doing regular things, but all these photos of us was like getting drunk and doing crazy things when we were young. It's just
Yeah. Justin Trudeau's great-grandkid's gonna look back at his blackface photos. Yeah. Anyway.
and then put on blackface and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Um, okay, well, that's interesting. I just wanted to ask you that because we were talking about that the other night, like the 50s and the 80s and being nostalgic for the 80s. And the other observation that Anthony made that was kind of startling to me was that we are further away from the 80s now than the 80s were from the 50s. And
yeah.
that's kind of crazy to
Hmm.
me. But
Yeah. That's weird.
Yeah, we're pretty
It's
far away.
weird with shows and, music. There's a lot of shows that, are still on, like South Park's been on the air for like 25 years. Like imagine if, this was 1990. That would mean that it premiered in 1965. Did I do my math right?
Yeah.
Is that just weird to think about though?
Yes,
Like if
it is
imagine if there's some
very weird.
show that premiered in 1965 was still on the air in like 1990.
Yeah. It's crazy. I have to put this up on the screen. That's from the chat. A bad dude named Corb Pop says, "Imagine seeing great grandma on OnlyFans."
Yeah. Or and not just that, it's like the Maury show. Look at how many kids are gonna look up, see their mom going on Maury, accusing like 10 dudes of being their daddy. You are not the father. You're like, that's just it's
Oh, dystopia. Okay, before we jump into this topic fully, thank you for the super chat, Broken Umbrella, $5. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. Says, "Oh no, what am I going to learn tonight?" Anyone feeling cursed from this episode's welcome to join the unofficial C.S. Lewis book club this Friday on Locals. You guys go check that out. Yeah, you might need a shower after this episode. Just warning you guys. Bungalow Logic is a member of our channel. Gives us a little thumbs up. Okay, I think I got both of them, all of them. Okay. So, in talking about My Little Pony, this is one of those things I wanted to cover because you know me, I like going down these rabbit holes once in a while into pretty dark stuff. And um I think there are a lot of parents out there who are Gen X and who, when they think of My Little Pony, they think of the My Little Pony that we knew. And so when their kids are consuming this content today, they may not be aware of what it's become. And they may be thinking, oh, it's just, it's My Little Pony. They may be thinking of the show that we grew up with, the toys that we grew up with, the culture that we grew up with. And I wanted to do an episode where we just kind of talk about what's happened to it since the 80s. And we'll start with this. So let's start with where it came from. My Little Pony is one of, in the 80s, you've mentioned this before, they were doing a lot of TV shows that were basically existed just to push toys, to push the product. And so this is one of those cases where the toy line, I think, started in 1981 and there were commercials for it. I'm going to add this to the stream. This was the first, I think the first My Little Pony commercial. And this was for the toy. This is before there was a TV show.
My little pony, comb and brush her hair. My little pony, tie a ribbon to show how much I care.
Okay, so clearly marketed towards little girls, right? And
say that anymore, Keri. Gender neutral. No.
Gender neutral. Yes. Well, considering where we're going, yes.
Yeah.
But in the commercial, who's playing with the My Little Pony? Little girls. Clearly a toy for children. I don't know why that. Well, I do know why that needs to be said now. And the toys were very popular, and so Hasbro pitched a series, and it became an animated show in 1986. So a few years later, and this is just a clip of that show.
My little pony, isn't the world a lovely place? My little pony, everywhere you go, a smiling face. Running and skipping, watching the morning on.
Okay. Why are you laughing?
quality television.
It is. It was. Again, for little girls, for children. This is a children's show. And so that's the My Little Pony that we know of. The original animated series ran only for a year or two. I think it stopped in 1987. There were a couple different toy lines that they launched in the 90s, And they brought back the animated series in 2010. So jump ahead a few decades. And the animated series, as reimagined in 2010, was called My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. And it ran from 2010 to 2017. And then they had several movies and holiday specials and films and stuff that continued until 2019. Now, because it's coming out in the 2010s, of course, it became wokified. And so they started introducing different social justice topics to children and trying to, I guess, get their diversity points and their, their DIE, diversity and inclusion equity points. And so, for example, you started to see articles like this one. This is from Sci-Fi. And the headline is My Little Pony is debuting its first gay couple and fans are hyped. Okay. Now remember just the commercial, the 1981 commercial I just showed you, and they're showing little girls playing with and what do they look like? They're 6 or 7. Are these 6 and 7-year-olds hyped? My Little Pony is debuting its first gay couple, and these 6 and 7-year-old girls are hyped.
It already has rainbows in it. I got your gayness there, right? With the rainbows, you don't have to do much. It's already got pride stuff in it.
Well, they've ended up adding many gay characters, but this
Just
again.
Make them all gay.
What?
Just make them all gay.
Yeah. Alan Scott says, "I thought they were all gay."
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just read a little bit of this. They may only be on screen for about 2 minutes, but Aunt Holiday and Auntie Lofty's appearance in this Saturday's episode of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is a big deal. Why? They're the first gay couple to appear on the animated program, airing smack dab in the middle of Pride, though it aired earlier in Europe. Quote, The Last Crusade will make for the TV debut of the couple, and fans are already celebrating. Again, now, who are you targeting this towards? It's because you're clearly, I think they're marketing it to those 6-year-old girls still, that like they were in the 80s, but they're also marketing it to adults. Because who are the ones which part of the audience is hyped for this?
Exactly.
Can you imagine this in the 80s, right? Like, never.
It's like making a Ninja Turtle gay.
Yeah.
Gay Ninja Turtle.
And fans are hyped.
Should probably be Michelangelo, but whatever.
No,
Just
Donatello.
saying. Really?
I'm just kidding.
No. You know which one's the black one, right?
Which one?
Raphael.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
no, I'm kidding. Why?
No, because he's angry and he's always cursing.
Oh, gosh. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles launches its first black turtle. Fans are hyped. Aunt Holiday and Auntie Lofty have been canonically in a lesbian relationship since their appearance in the book My Little Pony, Ponyville Mystery. So this was in the books before they brought it into the animated show, the reimagined animated show. They've been in a lesbian relationship since their appearance in the book My Little Pony, Ponyville Mysteries, Riddle of the Rusty Horseshoe, according to writer Michael Vogel. So then these are some people on Twitter who are very excited. Hey, Josh Haber and I are doing what we can to bring more equality to Equestria, #Pride Month. Quote, Nicole and I thought this was a great opportunity to organically introduce an LGBT couple into the series, and we asked Hasbro and they approved it, Vogel told BuzzFeed. Now the pair, who sometimes care for the character Scootaloo while her parents are away, are heading to the small screen. While their romance on screen doesn't pour out as much PDA, that's public display of affection, as the book does, in it, Holiday kisses Lofty on top of the head and calls her dear. Their mere appearance in the show is a win for some fans. Take a look at the excitement already bubbling over on Twitter.
Here's one guy. We found this guy. He's
This
excited.
this adult man is super
Yeah.
excited about My Little Ponies debuting a gay couple. Where are the 6-year-old girls who are tweeting about, "Oh my god, I can't wait." So this adult man says, "Gay rats and lesbian ponies have my heart overflowing. Hashtag Pride Month 2019. Huzzah! There's going to be a lesbian couple on Little Pony. OMG, I finally get to see who takes care of Scootaloo, and the fact it's a lesbian couple makes it 1,000 times better. One of the ponies has lesbian aunts. Children's media has come such a far way this year. Pretty far, yeah.
Do they make one like Butch? Is that it? Is one of them Butch and one's like more feminine?
I think that would be considered a problematic question. Last month, another animated show aimed towards children featured a same-sex relationship as Arthur's Mr. Ratburn got married to his husband on PBS. Steven Universe has been queer since the offbeat cartoon began. And so we're not going to read the rest of this article, but it goes on to celebrate other victories of introducing gay and lesbian couples and storylines into animated shows that are presumably meant to be for children. And fans are hyped.
It's the new thing. Just
Yeah.
more and more.
Hold on, I'm just checking to see if I missed anything. If I miss a super chat or something, you let me know, okay? You tag it. Because I've got a lot of links here and I want to get through all of them. Okay. So the new My Little Ponies they look a little bit different. They're a little bit more anthropomorphized, I would say. They have bigger eyes. They're more like the come hither type anime sort of just very in some ways sexually alluring. Yeah, eyes is the way that they do the eyes. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
So here's an article. And if you guys look up, if you want to do your own research on this, and if you look up My Little Pony sexy, you will find the most disturbing stuff. I'm just telling you now, like the most disturbing stuff. I'm not going to put some of that on screen. I'm going to show you a couple of articles. Here's one called "The Fetishistic Turn in My Little Pony," and in it, they've got this YouTube clip of the new series. So I'm just going to show a little bit of this since we're here. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay.
I am excited, but I'm a little nervous too. Twilight!
You'll soon know more about this place than even I do.
What am I?
Whoa, you okay?
You must be new here.
That isn't working. My name's Kelly Sparkle.
Where are the ponies?
Okay, right? Here's something that's happened is they've gotten so humanistic, I guess. They've anthropomorphized them so much that they've actually now just created these human ponies. And they've introduced these characters. There's one called Equestria Girls. These characters called Equestria Girls. And here's another article. Oh, this article has a point of view. I'm warning you. It's a conservative point of view. If you don't like hearing this. Headline: When Hasbro sexes up My Little Pony, parents need to say enough. Coming to your daughters this August from Hasbro, Equestria Girl. First the Tooth Fairy, now this. Can our kids' choices possibly get any more homogenized? Huffington Post reports on the evolution of My Little Pony. Equestria Girls, dolls that are pony girl hybrids.
Freaks of nature.
Yeah. Along with a special DVD to be released in August. Per a press release, the humanized figures are supposed to represent My Little Pony characters as teenage girls in high school. The release goes on to describe these characters with words like glamour, stylish, ultra chic, and is noted that each doll features her own signature cutie splash, an individual design that is similar to the cutie mark on her pony alter ego. According to the New York Times, there's much more involved with the Equestria Girls rollout than a DVD. The new property will get the red carpet treatment when it premieres as a full-length animated feature at the Los Angeles Film Festival in June. The movie, created by Hasbro Studios, the company's production division, will then be released in more than 200 theaters nationwide. Its trailer will start appearing in theaters on Wednesday. There will also be a television debut on the Hub Network. Do you see how narratives on movies and TV sell products and are in fact created to sell products? Do you see how important it is for girls and boys to see narratives featuring strong female protagonists? I'm trying to see if there was something else. Okay. It's up to parents and those who give a hang about girls' actual development and well-being to say absolutely nay. I like the pun there. Neigh. You want a sexualized, self-objectifying girl? Give her sexualized, objectified dolls. You don't? Have some conversations with other parents in your community about the potential impact of self-sexualization and self-objectification on girls' development, including negative body image, eating disorders, depression, low self-esteem, poor sexual choices, etc., and choose from the many other toy options that are rising up in response to this inappropriate trend. What do you think about this hybrid?
Well, I mean, clearly it's being used to kind of force these girls to develop faster in terms of, presenting more teenage stories or teenage looks. And little girls are going to emulate that. And I imagine there's also some costumes. I don't know. Did you find any costumes? You happen to look that up to see if they're selling these type costumes for little girls to wear?
I did not look up to see if there's costumes. I can do that in a second if you want, but I'm sure there are. I'm sure there's all kinds of products that go along with it, to see yourself as the character, right?
Yeah.
My issue with it is that what we're getting into tonight is that this new series, the one that debuted in 2010 and ran for 7 years and then continued with these films and specials and stuff until 2019. This new series, the woke series, the the biggest and most surprising part of the audience is that it's mostly been adult men who are watching it. Did you know that? Am I surprising you?
I didn't know it was mostly adult men. I knew there were men in there because I'd heard the term bronies before, but I didn't realize it went as deep as it did with all this stuff and the conventions and everything.
Yeah, so the conventions there have been so there's this word called bronies. This is what they call themselves. These are the adult male fans of the new My Little Pony, and they started holding conventions in 2011, conventions built around the television show, and they ended up holding 11 of these conventions. The last one they did was in 2019, and there were over 10,000 people there. These are adults, many of whom are dressing like My Little Ponies, who have bedrooms covered in these animated series and these little girl ponies, who some of them who are furries, which are the people who dress in the giant fur costumes, and there's often a sexualized element to it. This article that I have up on the screen, I'm just going to read from a little bit of this because this is talking about this phenomenon. It says, Hasbro has said that they want to expand their My Little Pony brand out of the children's market and into the more lucrative teenager market. But the thing is, the market for the My Little Pony is already pretty much expanded beyond the children's market. The Brony fandom consists of a large range of ages, and the show crosses both gender and generational boundaries. Their presence in the market may not be intentional or perhaps even desirable from Hasbro's perspective, but they do exist, and they are loyal consumers of both the show and its ancillary merchandise, such as the My Little Pony app game. And while the movie is clearly targeting a teenage girl audience with the focus on human high school experiences, personally, I don't even know if that's who they're targeting, but the marketing of the movie appears to be targeting a specific subset of the Brony fandom, the subset that likes to sexualize and fetishize the ponies. If you are not new to the internet, then you have probably heard of Rule 34. If it exists, there's porn of it. Did you know about that rule?
I didn't know there was a name for it, but yes, I mean, you could do Google search. Like, if you don't put the say search on, like, no matter what you put in, porn will eventually come up.
Yeah. So Rule 34, if it exists, there's porn of it. My Little Pony, like so many other cartoons intended for an audience of children, is not exempt from this. A simple search on art sharing site DeviantArt can bring up numerous examples of people reimagining the ponies in an erotic posture, from the headstrong Twilight to the soft-spoken Fluttershy. These are different pony names. In some of these images, the ponies are anthropomorphized into human representations, resulting in a range of possible depictions from animal to human. There is even a subset of My Little Pony fan fiction called Clop Fic that is sexually explicit, ranging from tender erotica to hardcore pornography. They've also developed, the Bronies, this entire language. They have different words for masturbation. They call it something else. I'm gonna say they have like a whole sexualized language around getting off to this cartoon that's supposedly for little girls. So here's an example of, that's a very tame image that you would find. Another thing, again, if you don't want to see this stuff, then don't look it up. But there's a whole subset of these people who are actually into like actual animal, like horse abuse, like sexual abuse of horses. And a crossover there. If you
Gets
can,
darker and darker.
I know.
We're joking. It keeps going and going. I'm like,
I know. And I used to be one of those people who, I remember when the Bronies, there've been a couple Bronies documentaries. I remember when one of them came out, and I remember thinking, "Oh, that's so cool! Like, I want to see that." I didn't see it. I'm gonna watch it now, but I remember thinking, "Oh, that's so cool! I want to see that." There's nothing wrong with men loving My Little Pony. Like I was at that point where on the left, sometimes they encourage people to be so open-minded that your brain falls out. Where it's sort of like, everyone's different. And I'm sorry if there's any Bronies watching and you feel like I'm painting you all with a broad brush. Like, if the examples that we're going to talk about tonight, if get your community under control, and then maybe the people won't think of this when they think of Bronies.
It's sad now. You have to kind of like think that way with all the revelations the last few years of all the stuff of adults who are attracted to children coming out, especially with Jeffrey Epstein and all that stuff. It's like I just start thinking about this, like anything to do with like little kids and adults and stuff. It makes you start wondering like what's going on, especially with like the stuff coming out of some of the people affiliated with Nickelodeon and with Disney Channel and stuff they were into. It's
Yes.
just like it's sad you have to think that way, but it's just immediately my mind goes there like, oh, I bet that stuff's going on.
Yes. And it makes sense, because predators will go to a place where there will be prey. So that's why you see child predators of children in positions like the clergy sometimes, or as kindergarten teachers, or drag queen story hour, or in the Brony community, a community that's built around an animated show for little girls. It makes sense. Of course, predators are going to be attracted to these places. Okay. I'm sorry, this is so gross. Anyway, it's not your 1980s My Little Pony anymore. Okay. All of this exists, and Hasbro cannot be ignorant of it. A friend who is a member of the furry community has told me how the company has sent out cease and desist letters to those Bronies seeking to, perhaps in some small way, capitalize on this subset of the fandom, such as through conventions. And I would be amazed if Hasbro has not heard about the internet dust-up between a Brony and a Klopfic artist that was even covered by the AV Club. Thus, when Hasbro released news of the upcoming movie with marketing material showing anthropomorphized ponies, it was hard not to see the marketing as targeting this subset. The following image comes from the New York Times. So, I mean, these are, if you've already got, that you have an audience of adult men who are into fetishizing these anthropomorphized ponies with these huge doe eyes, and now what are you doing? You're turning the ponies into like half teenage girl, half pony, sexual, like Spice Girl looking. I just, these are the equestrian girls anyway. You can see them on the screen. Here the ponies are shown half pony, half human, at the midpoint of anthropomorphism that had previously only been seen in the fan art. Naturally, there were those who, when I pointed out the apparent attempt at marketing to this subset of bronies, thought this image had to have been created by the newspaper. They could not believe that Hasbro would release something that looked so representative of fanon, of what the fans themselves have created, and yet the official website for the movie, as well as its poster, again showed the image of Twilight Sparkle in this fanon form. The official poster generated a quite robust conversation on Facebook of supporters, detractors, and those who were cautiously optimistic. It goes on to talk about all the different reactions and all of the people weighing in. However, what's most interesting in this entire event is not who Hasbro is targeting and who is actually turning out for the movie. Rather, it's the process of anthropomorphizing the ponies in the fanon, which, when carried to a sexually explicit extreme, results in a fetishism of the ponies beyond the consumerism inherent in the toy line. Within the fandom, there are different opinions as to how the fans should treat the characters in their fanon creations. When looking at the erotic and pornographic, be they stories or art, there are those who support such production, even suggesting arousal to it, although it can be hard to discern if such sentiment is ironic or honest. At the other extreme are those who vehemently oppose such creations, citing concerns from bestiality, which yes, that exists in this community, this MLP community, to child pornography. The one side would argue creative license in Rule 34, which itself is a philosophy of experimentation, of pushing the boundaries, while the other side would argue common decency and consideration for how those outside the fandom view the bronies. I'm going to stop reading this article here because it gets more into fetishizing and stuff. But
So you said earlier that the conventions ran until 2019. Have there
yes,
been any since? Because I'm wondering if negative publicity from some of the stuff going on maybe caused some of the people running conventions to kind of like shy away from doing that.
that's what I'm thinking, because they originally said they were going to run the conventions until I think it was like 2025 or something. And I wonder if some of the negative attention that they've gotten is what caused them to end it early. I'm not sure, but they did say that the 2019 would be their last one, that they were stopping.
One of the links I sent you was a video from a news report on one of the conventions from a few years ago. Maybe a good time to play that now. Give
Okay,
people a little
cool.
look. I think this is from Tampa Bay, and this is like some big pony convention. And this was early on, before I guess some of their darker stuff came out, but gives you a sense of what was going on and how the media was reporting on it at that time.
Okay, hold on one second. Before I pull that one up, let me just put this news article on the screen really quick, because I'm going to pull up the video. You sent me the convention, and then we'll get into a bunch of the convention stuff. But first, can you see this news article?
Not yet.
So this is just to your point about predators being drawn to places where they're going to be able to find prey. This is one of the this is one of the gross people that I stumbled across when looking into what happened to My Little Ponies. Headline: My Little Pony animator jailed for possessing 60,000 child abuse
Jeez.
images. He's now diagnosed with a condition called a pedophilic disorder.
Being a sick F.
An Ottawa-based animator has received 28 months in prison. That's it? Just 28? Canada, that's how you treat your pedos? 28?
I wonder if he got his bank account frozen. Probably not.
Right, but if you're a conservative, probably not. An Ottawa-based animator has received 28 months in prison for possessing child pornography content. The 55-year-old Tom Weisslam is an artist by profession who is known for his contribution in various animated TV shows for children, including My Little Pony. At the time of his arrest, Weisslam possessed more than 60,000 objectionable images of children and 1,625 videos. He pled guilty to all the charges pressed against him in December of last year. He's credited on his IMDb page as being an animator and character developer. Between 2012 and 2015, he created animations for 26 episodes of My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, and 23 episodes of The Littlest Pet Shop. I wonder how his, after work hours interests influenced his job as an animator and how he chose to portray these characters on screen.
I wonder if he is creating some of that. What they call it? This Cyclops. What was it?
The art.
Yeah, I wonder if he's creating some of that on the side and putting that online.
Right. So there we go. Just one example of that, of what you were talking about. Okay, so let me pull up this video so you guys can get an idea of what these Brony conventions are like. And you said this is from early on?
Yeah, it's a few years ago, 7 or 8 years ago. From Tampa Bay. Oh, wait, hold on. That's the other one. Sorry. But you can play this one too. But we'll play the news clip next. But just real quick, I mean, just skip through it. Don't play the whole thing. I just thought this was a little weird because it's just people chanting, which is a little weird, but.
And anyway, it's a bunch of adults dressed. It's a bunch of the furries, right?
Yeah.
Get in the camera. I'll take it. There's the camera
If you fast forward a little, they start chanting something that doesn't sound like it's from My Little Pony, but maybe it is. I don't get that. Is that from the show? What is? But that's it. Yeah.
I don't know what they're chanting. Maybe there's actually somebody in the chat who's been to the BronyCons. Hobbs, maybe you can tell us what they're chanting. Oh, he says it's from a fan video. Crush, kill, destroy, swag. I'm actually glad you're here. You can let me know if I'm not being fair enough, Hobbs, because as I mentioned before, I've always kind of been previously like, whatever floats your boat. Like I've been to WeirdCon, which is a LARPing convention. Obviously I love comic conventions. I don't have a problem. I love going to Ren Fair and stuff like that. Like I don't have a problem with adults engaging in fantasy play. But there's something about the Bronies in particular, or maybe it's just because I've seen too many of the negative stories now. Maybe it's because of the predators that were drawn to the community, or the person who started BronyCon, who's now in the news again, and we're about to talk about. Maybe that's why I've sort of let it color my perception of all Bronies. But anyway, you can tell me if you think I'm being unfair. So you have another clip. It's a news clip.
Yeah, the news. Yeah, just news report. Pull this one up.
Okay.
I'm surprised those guys weren't labeled alt-right, but I guess that was before Charlottesville. Here they are on their way to Charlottesville.
That's what I was thinking.
Ponies will not replace us. Ponies will not replace us.
They're taking our jobs, the ponies. Stupid. Okay.
All right, now here's something you don't see every day. These folks call themselves Bronies. They're adults, often male superfans of the show My Little Pony. And as Fox 13's Josh Cassio is going to show you now, a 3-day Brony convention has kicked off in Tampa.
Yes, it has. It's at the Embassy Suites at USF, and it's as colorful as its characters.
My little pony.
I love this place, and you can just go full out Brony.
I know y'all love Pinkie Pie.
Yes, these grown-up guys and gals call themselves Bronies. Welcome to the Grand Brony Gala, dedicated to all things My Little Pony.
It's really fun to just be around people who appreciate the show for what it is and who appreciate you. I never knew I could find 2 creepypasta My Little Ponies here earlier. So when I saw this, I had to buy it.
My little pony, my little pony.
For the non-Bronies out there, My Little Pony debuted back in the 80s, and it's currently in its 4th generation. It's aimed at young girls, but these days, plenty of adults are playing Pony too. I know what you're thinking. What is it about a kid's show that has all these adults jazzed up? Well, they say it's all about the message.
The messages of the show go back to the olden days of the basics. Friendship, kindness, generosity.
It doesn't seem like it's a show for little girls. It has lots of fun characters that you can relate to.
Upwards of 1,000 Bronies will hoof it through the convention this weekend, and proceeds benefit All Children's Hospital. Friendships will be made,
Pony selfie.
tales shared, and plenty of horseplay to go around.
Becoming a part of the Brony community is a really good way to expand your social circle and just
Take it from the voice of Spike himself, Kathy Westluck,
Spike would say, hey man, it's so nice everyone's here, and like total bro huff.
with the Bronies in Tampa. Josh Cassio, Fox 13 News.
Who knew?
I want to see that Florida newscaster woman who just said, "Who knew?" I want to see her do a rabbit hole episode like this, where it's like, and they do fan art meant for the purposes of arousal. Oh. So I guess this is a good time to talk about the creator of the Bronies. Would this be a good time?
Yeah, I didn't know there was a creator.
Well, actually, maybe I should bring up this article. No, that's okay. We're I have so many links, so we're not going to do that one. Okay, so the reason I started thinking about the Bronies again was because the founder of BronyCon was in the news again recently. And did you see everything that happened with limited run games?
I heard some people talking about it, but I didn't really catch what specifically happened.
Okay, so the founder of BronyCon is a person called is a male to female transgendered woman, so biological male, who goes by the name Jessica Blank or the name Purple Tinker online. And that also was something that I found to be a little more common than you would think, that there seemed to be a lot of at least the popular Brony, My Little Pony YouTubers or commentators, and there were a lot of them, that many of them have now transitioned. So they started off as Bronies. Well, now they're trans women. So how they you're not a bro anymore. I don't know what's but let me get this one up on the screen. This is the limited run game thing that happened recently. And I'm just going to read a couple of tweets. This is from Data Research, who says, here's the CEO of Limited Run Games who fired an employee because she followed Gina Carano, Blair White, and libs of TikTok. Douglas Bogart, who's the CEO of Limited Run Games, he has he him in his profile, of course, says that people should only be allowed to post their personal opinions if you're a woke liberal. So they actually
Just cross out the liberal part. There we go.
Right. If you're woke, not a liberal, right? So they fired this employee because it's not an exaggeration, because of who she followed on Twitter, because she followed some conservatives or conservative leaning accounts, or accounts that people consider to be conservative, even if they're not. So she follows libs of TikTok. She follows Blair White and other people, and that Gina Carano, and that was deemed unacceptable. So they issued a statement after firing this person. After firing her, they said Limited Run Games respects all personal opinions. I love it how they always say the exact opposite of what they're liars, these people, every time they do one of these statements. Limited Run Games respects all personal opinions. However, we remain committed to supporting an inclusive culture. Upon investigating a situation, an employee was terminated. Our goal as a company is to continue to foster a positive and safe environment for everyone. So the reason why the founder of BronyCon comes into this, Purple Tinker, is because Purple Tinker is the one who started the online cancel mob going after this employee, this Limited Run Games employee, whose name is Carolyn. And you can see some of Purple Tinker's tweets here. The community manager for Limited Run Games, Carolyn, is a transphobe who follows a veritable who's who of right-wing transphobic creeps. Unless and until she is fired from the company permanently, I am not giving them another single dime. And you can see Purple Tinker here. And here's what Data Research has to say about Purple Tinker. Purple Tinker is the founder of BronyCon and the trans activist responsible for this firing. Bronies are adult My Little Pony fans into furry cosplay and pornographic cartoon art. They had multiple pedophiles in their community, and one tried to abduct an 11-year-old girl at a 2014 BronyCon. And then you can see a couple of links that this person has included here. One is a petition on change.org that says zero tolerance for pedophiles and pedophile enablers. Recent evidence has been provided showing beyond a reasonable doubt that he's a pedophilic sexual predator. I know which Brony they're talking about. We're going to get to him in a second. While a large majority of the community has come out against him, a smaller number of members have come out and talked about forgiving him before even a week has passed. So this is just evidence of this issue that they've had within the community. Here's a Tumblr post, a word about Bronies. So I just got back last night from a Brony convention in San Francisco. I was working a booth for a vendor friend, and let me tell you what happened. We met a little girl who was there with her family. She got a button drawn at our booth, told us all about her favorite ponies, and was overall just too damn cute. She had a My Little Pony lanyard filled with pins that she had gotten in the vendor's room, and gave me a Fluttershy pin because she liked my cosplay. She ended up hanging out with us for a while and being super cute. We call her Babby because she's 11 and precious. The next day, she runs up to the booth, terrified, and asks if she can please hide under our table for a few minutes. Turns out a dude had been following her around the convention all day and tried to get her to come up to his hotel room alone. She tells us she thought he was okay at first because he was wearing a My Little Pony shirt, but she didn't want to go anywhere with him, and he made her uneasy. At one point, after she refused, he grabbed her arm in the elevators and tried to get her to follow him. She ran and now wants somewhere to hide. And then there's more screenshots here. Purple Tinker. Again, Purple Tinker is the person who created the cancel culture mob that got this employee fired by Limited Run Games just because of who the employee follows on Twitter. And here are some of the things that Purple Tinker has done online. Purple Tinker stalked, doxed, and threatened to murder another Brony for 2 years.
Oh.
Yeah. She sent her stalking victim child rape porn. She defended, now this person's calling her she, but again, she's a biological male, if you're just tuning in. She sent her stalking victim child rape porn. She defended pedophilia. A very long account with hundreds of receipts is on Tumblr. This is who Limited Run Games fired a girl for being conservative. Let's recap. Purple Tinker sent child rape porn, defends pedophilia and statutory rape, doxes, stalks, makes death threats, and founded a My Little Pony convention circuit that had pedophiles running rampant. And then they're asking at the end, Limited Run Games should give this woman her job back. I'm just going to bring up, I have another thread here on Purple Tinker, just so you can see some of those tweets for yourself. We're not going to go through all the screenshots, but I'll show you some of these.
It's like just because someone follows someone who's conservative doesn't even mean they agree with them. I know people who are conservative who follow people who are very far left. A lot of people just like seeing what the other side is saying. And it's just amazing that they're in this purge mode where you have to find anybody that has anything that could be misconstrued as being conservative or on the right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who you follow. That you should. We say this all the time, but I follow tons of leftists whose views I think are abhorrent. I follow them so I can see what they're saying. It's such a guilt by association thing. So the Limited Run Games employee got fired just because of who she follows. She follows some conservatives. OMG. But this person who started the cancel mob, the founder of BronyCon, this trans activist, Purple Tinker, here's some of the stuff Purple Tinker has tweeted. This is a thread from Idiotic Sensen on Twitter. It says, I did more research into Purple Tinker, and the fact that Limited Run Games fired someone over old tweets but will not address this is horrifying. I would show more, but her account is gone. The account's now back, by the way. But the account's gone. My apologies if you follow me for Warhammer content or fun memes, but this has shocked me. And so here are some of the tweets where Purple Tinker is defending statutory rape. Purple Tinker says, teenagers aren't effing babies. The line between child and adult is very blurry. The line between child and adult is very blurry. Teenagers deserve respect. Part of respect is self-determination, not some holy adult saying, quote, this is what you want, even if you disagree. The existence of the term statutory rape denies personhood and self-determination to a whole class of people. They're talking about children. That it denies personhood to children.
That's so disgusting.
Yeah. Here's some more. Somebody else says having sex at all at 14 isn't inherently rape, but a 27-year-old teacher having sex with her 9th grade student is. And here comes Purple Tinker to disagree and say the 14-year-old might disagree and might go to his grave still disagreeing. His opinion is the only one that matters. If X has sex with you, it's always rape, even if you disagree, is a supremely insulting position to take. It insulted me at 14 and it insults me now. I'm the only one who can tell you if I was raped, not you.
And this person never got their account banned, I'm sure.
Nope. And
Nope.
in fact, they have a big enough microphone and enough of an influence online and enough of a following that they got Limited Run Games to pay attention to them and to fire a female employee simply because she follows conservatives on Twitter. But this person is defending child rape. So that's Purple Tinker. And there's a lot more on this person. As you,
I'm sure there are.
A lot more. That's just scratching the surface. This person is a psychopath. Like, as a lot of them are. Everyone's still having a good time. I'm sorry. I knew this was going to be a dark episode.
It's dark.
We're supposed to be having some fun.
I didn't know it was gonna get this dark, but
wait. Sorry about this. Here I've got something to cleanse the palate. Hold on one second. You guys, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. This is a dark episode, darker than what we usually do. I just wanted to, for any parents who aren't aware of like who is in this My Little Pony community with their children, if their kids are fans of the show, like, here's some of the people in that same fandom as your kids, just so you know. I'm gonna cleanse your palate real fast.
My little pony, my little pony.
That's it. We should just have the song queued up. Okay. Do you have anything else about the convention that you wanted to cover before I get into some of the weirdos?
No, I don't.
Okay.
So some weirdos. Like, we haven't been getting into weirdos.
Well, the founder of Purple Tinker, weirdo. Here's one of that petition that we just saw within the Brony community where they wanted to call out someone who was found to be a pedophile, one of the YouTube creators in the community who was outed. That was about this person. Here, put this on the screen. Toon Critic Y2K. And if you go looking up information about this person, Toon Critic Y2K's name is Zach Kays. He was a popular My Little Pony YouTuber. There were lots of these YouTube personalities, almost the ones that I looked at anyway. Most of them seemed to be adult men who covered the TV show, did reviews about the show, participated in role play, etc. This person, Toon Critic Y2K, this was a lot of them come up with these My Little Pony avatars for themselves. And this was his character. And there's a ton of videos about this guy and commentary about him. He ended up admitting to his actions in a recorded call with some of the other male My Little Pony YouTubers, where they called him to the carpet about his activities. There were hundreds or thousands of screenshots that were released where he had been grooming children, young girls, one of whom was 13, getting them to send sexual photos to him. He was sending sexual photos back to them, trying to get them to come to conventions and get their parents' permission, talking about having them in hotel rooms all to himself. The grossest stuff that you can imagine. He was doing it. So that was one of the weirdos. Christopher Gorey gives us a super chat, $4.99. Thank you, sir. Says, hi, Keri and Chris. Not much to say. Just please keep shining a light on these horrible people. Right now, exposing them is our best weapon. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you're hanging out with us, even though we're doing a bit of a dark episode tonight. And thank you for the support, Christopher. Do you want to look at more horrible people?
All right, let's do it. I'm just gonna cry a little bit, but okay.
Okay. Do you know who Chris Chan is?
I think. Remind me.
Okay, so Chris Chan was a YouTuber, vlogger, artist, and musician. I'm putting that in quotes. Who had a big following, and mostly on YouTube, and also is an adult male who ended up transitioning and changing his name to Christine. He's 40 years old, I believe. We're going to pull up an article about him. I just learned about this guy. I think there are probably people in our chat who are a lot more familiar with him than I am. But he is a brony. And
the one who got arrested for doing something with
raping his mom. Yes.
Yeah.
So this is Chris, aka Christine Chan. There's a ton of, again, just like with Purple Tinker, there's a ton of terrible stuff in this person's history. You can find out all about it online. I'm just going to skip down to the most disgusting and depraved. So in 2021, an audio file and text messages were leaked online in which Chris Chan, aka Christine Chan, described in graphic detail how they use the word she, but again, This is just so you know, it's a biological male. Sexually assaulted her own mother numerous times. Chris Chan's mother has dementia. And anyway, Chris claimed that she started having sex with Barbara every 3 days beginning in June. In the text messages, Chris acknowledged that it was hurting Barbara and that Barbara told Chris to stop. Barbara also never consented to the incest since she was possibly suffering from dementia. The links were verified to be real. I think it got posted on Kiwi Farms or something. And Chris Chan had privately disclosed to other people that he was in a relationship with someone, quote, physically older, but vague about who it was. Didn't say, and then started saying that he no longer believes in labels, apparently referring to his mother-daughter relationship. So there was a lot more crazy stuff that happened, but here's the legal proceedings. So in July of 2021, an emergency protective order was put in place and Chris Chan was removed from her family home. She was not allowed to return to the house until August 5th. The next day, however, I can't do the female pronouns for this person. I don't respect this person. No. The next day, he violated the protective order by stealing $750 from Barbara's bank account. Null had been made aware of this transaction via confirmation email due to his access to Chris's emails. When he confronted Chris about this, Chris initially denied ever siphoning the $750 from Barbara's account. It goes on, that was reported to law enforcement. Okay, so in August, of 2021, Chris Chan was arrested in Virginia, and he was led away by police and charged with felony incest and additional charges pending. Taken to jail, later moved to Central Virginia Regional Jail, being held without bond. There was a bunch of some kind of internet drama with other internet crazies recording this crazy, and I don't get into all that stuff. This is kind of crazy. Listen to this. Chris Chan first appeared in court August 5th, 2021, was noted for announcing to the courtroom that he's famous on the internet and for throwing a tantrum because he wasn't allowed to grab his stuff that he left at home. The judge deemed Chris to be a danger to the public, I'd say, and ordered him to remain in police custody without bond until the preliminary hearing, which was originally scheduled for September 16th, but moved to November. The reason for doing so was for Chris's lawyer to evaluate his mental health. However, you think this person's got problems? However, the court date was postponed once again to 2022 for unknown reasons. Chris Chan was transferred to Western State Hospital, a state psychiatric hospital in Staunton, Virginia, for, quote, restoration in order to re-educate him on courtroom proceedings and terminology. This was interesting too. On August 29th, it was rumored that Chris Chan had allegedly fled from the courthouse after asking if he could use the bathroom and fleeing through the bathroom window. However, Chris's lawyers denied these rumors, said he's still being held. So this person is in jail currently. The reason I bring him up is because because of the criminal proceedings against him and how disturbed he is, and because he is one of the most famous YouTubers to be a brony. And you can see some of that here.
I think I do remember seeing some videos or something. He used to make videos or something.
Yeah. Yeah, here he is. I put him in the cover art for tonight. Chris Chan is going to BronyCon 2019. And then there's a ton of photos here. A lot of these are fans who took pictures with him at BronyCon, all excited that he was there because he's a big YouTuber there at BronyCon. So there you go. Thank you, Freethinker. Freethinker says, I'm trans and I get permission to totally disrespect this dirtbag. LOL. Thank you. Anyone who's a regular viewer of Deprogram knows, like, everybody has a different position on it. My position is respect is earned, and I don't mind using a person's preferred pronouns as long as they're the usual pronouns, he or she. if I respect them and actually, and if it comes naturally to me because they are convincingly passed, that makes a big difference too. But I don't like using pronouns of someone, the preferred pronouns of someone who I don't have any respect for. So why would I show you that nicety? No. Also because he's probably one of those people who pretends that there's no such thing as biological sex. Is this
Does
too
it get
much for
worse?
you?
Yes.
Well, should we just skip
But
ahead?
wait, there's more.
Should we skip ahead to the Brony murderer? One of them?
I don't mean to laugh, but it's just.
Did you know about this?
No, I did. No, I did not. Yeah.
I know it does get worse. I know. You have to laugh. It's dark humor. Does it get worse? Yes. Oh, okay. So this got a lot of attention last year as well. So in addition to Chris Chan being arrested and all the incest revelations, and in addition to that, there was the FedEx murder that made the news. It was a mass shooting that made the news. And one of the reasons that people were paying attention to it, and people in the Brony community were complaining because they were like, again, sort of like, we don't like this to represent the community. And I guess my answer is, then why are there so many of these people drawn to this particular community? I'm not saying everyone has problems, and I'm not. And I know we have community members who are Bronies. It's just, weed out these guys, weed out these, and I'm having trouble finding words here.
Hey, I'd be curious to see like what kind of efforts, like how the community is treating that. Because if I was a part of a community and that seemed to be something that was a widespread, I would definitely want to be one of the people that are trying to root that out. And so I'm just curious. I don't know, but I'm just curious to see how that's being handled right now.
Yeah, I don't know if it's being, I mean, when it comes to some of the ones who've been outed as being pedophiles, like they have like that petition I showed you, there has been a movement. I will say that. Yes, there are Bronies who are calling these other guys to the carpet and saying none of this, and but there are others who are defending them and saying, we should forgive. And I think the majority are saying, no, we don't want this to represent us. So I want to bring this up because I think there's something about adult male fandom and teenage male fandom of animated shows that are intended, or at least originally were intended for little girls. There's something about it that I think is maybe attractive to a particular kind of disaffected young man. And some of these young men might be men who would otherwise end up in what's called the incel community, the involuntarily celibate community, and there have been mass shooters in that community as well. This guy reminds me of one of those people. He reminds me of someone who might have just as likely ended up in an incel community, but he ended up in the My Little Pony, the Brony community. FedEx shooter. Here's the headline from the New York Post. FedEx shooter Brandon Hull was obsessed with My Little Pony report. This is the guy the 19-year-old who killed 8 people and injured 5 at a FedEx in Indianapolis. There's a video here. We're not going to play that, but I'll read you some of this. The man who shot up an Indianapolis FedEx facility and killed 8 people was reportedly part of a bizarre internet subculture obsessed with My Little Pony. Posts on the 19-year-old Brandon Hull's since taken down Facebook page appear to indicate he was a member of the Bronies community, a group of mostly adult men who are extreme fans of the kitty toys and animated television show, the Wall Street Journal reported. Some members are sexually attracted to the characters, while the group also has allegedly displayed far-right tendencies.
Oh.
Really? It's a super woke fandom, isn't it? Okay. Quote, I wonder if they're saying far-right tendencies because some of them are shooters? Like, what does that mean? Okay. So, quote, I hope that I can be with Applejack in the afterlife. My life has no meaning without her. Hull wrote on his Facebook page at 10:19 p.m. Thursday, less than an hour before his rampage began, the outlet reported.
Jeez.
This is a picture of Applejack, the My Little Pony he's talking about from the series. The post included a photo of Applejack, a blonde pony that's the main character on the show. The name Brony is a mashup between bro and pony, and the group has a history of extremist tendencies, the outlet said, citing an internal Facebook memo they reviewed that detailed the post. Quote, Brony online culture has displayed elements of far-right and white nationalist extremism, the memo stated. Oh,
they got to keep putting that in. It's like, what is their proof? Like, what is this evidence? Does it make sense that, right wing would really be into?
I don't know if I believe that, but maybe we should read that other article too. So here's a picture of him. Looks like a kid. I mean, he's so young, 19. Facebook stopped short of saying Hull's pony love had anything to do with the shooting. Writing in the memo, there was no clear evidence that it motivated the massacre. Hull was a former employee of FedEx, and he opened fire in the facility before turning the gun on himself. His motives remain unclear. So there are videos about this, and I mean, this guy had a lot of My Little Pony like paraphernalia and stuff. You can watch one of these if you're interested. I'll link in the chat right now the one of the channels that I watch, true crime channels, which has a good episode on it. There we go. I hope that shows up. So this one reminded me of another mass shooter, Randy Stair. Do you know Randy Stair?
No.
Okay. Randy Stair was obsessed with, it wasn't My Little Ponies, but it's so similar. It was another cartoon, like animated show that was targeted at young girls. And he had become so obsessed with the show that he had created his own characters, and he had a animated version of himself that he put in he did his own like fan art and fan storylines for the show. And he was a YouTuber. Now I know this isn't Brony, this isn't My Little Pony, but just because that particular case of the Brony shooter reminds me so much of this guy. And again, I think there's something going on here with disaffected male youth being drawn to these animated shows that are intended for little girls. I'm not sure what it is.
I mean, I could take a guess. Do you think these people were abused as children? Perhaps, and I'm not saying that everyone is into this has
right.
some abuse in the past, but I can imagine that there was some sexual abuse in their past when they were kids, and maybe they were stunted in a way that made them attractive. Again, not saying everyone who's into that is, but
I haven't read anything about either of these being sexually abused as kids. If you're in the chat and you know differently, please let me know. But they were both bullied, and they're both outsiders. And I think that a lot of times young men or teenage boys are looking for, especially if they're bullies and they're sort of on the outside, they're looking for a community, and they're looking for a place where they belong. And they're also simultaneously getting hit with all this messaging about how you can change your gender and you can change your sex. And whereas it used to be that the young people who experienced gender dysphoria was such a small fraction of a percentage of the population, because I think that was like the very, very authentic, like that was the number of people. It was a small fraction of a percent of people who dealt with that, who had to deal with that issue. But now we've mainstreamed it culturally, and we're telling kids like, hey, you might be born in the wrong body, you might be trans, you might be. And so there's all these disaffected youth, and we know that the numbers are very high in the autism community of these young people who are now saying, well, I'm trans too, me too. Randy Stair is one who decided that he was trans and experimented with that. And so I won't go through all the details of this one, but just the headline, if anybody wants to read about this mass shooting. The headline is YouTuber slaughtered colleagues to cross over into cartoon world that he imagined. Randy Stair, a troubled YouTuber who believed he was going to cross over into the cartoon world after he died, killed 3 of his coworkers during his night shift at a supermarket. The other thing is both of these shootings, they shot up places where they worked, and there's something there as well, I think, where it's just sort of being resentful about this, the state of being, about having to go to work. And maybe you're 19, you're working at a grocery store and you hate it and you resent it. Or, you're working at a FedEx and you hate it and you resent it and you think you deserve so much more. And it's like everyone has worked those jobs when they're teenagers. But to go in and take that resentment out on your coworkers, which both of these people did. This guy, it says, a YouTuber who became obsessed with the Columbine shooting and believed he was going to become a cartoon character in the afterlife went on a mass killing spree at a supermarket. Randy Stair, known more commonly by his online pseudonym Andrew Blaze, shot 3 of his coworkers on the night shift at Weiss Markets on June 7th, 2017. The troubled 25-year-old had made sure to block all of the store's emergency exits, which included locking the automatic doors at the entrance. CCTV footage shows him approaching a 4th employee, Kristen Newell, who's oblivious of the horror unfolding due to having music blasting through her headphones. Stair remained watching her back for 5 seconds. This footage is so startling too. It's just so disturbing to watch. You can see him considering if he's going to kill her or not, and she has no idea that he's behind her because she's got headphones in. She ended up surviving, but yeah. And this guy was a YouTuber, and so there's a lot of content online, and people have that same channel that I linked before about the other, the Brony killer, has done a really great job of pulling together a lot of footage and trying to figure out what was going on with this guy. So I would recommend that episode too. But I've been talking way too much. I'm going to let you talk.
What can I say? I mean,
I know. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, that's far more than I thought, because again, I didn't know much about Bronies, and I know there's some people who, again, as we mentioned before, are not weirdos, not into crazy stuff like that, but still, this just seeing some of these people and seeing just how dark some of these actions get, it's just loss of words.
It's a loss of words, and it's such a it's like I wish we lived in a world where when something like this happens, there's a lot of people who are, and all of our experts and our politicians and people who say they want to, end mass shootings and stuff like that. I wish that they were focused on pulling apart all the different reasons why this is happening, why things like this happen, and get to the root causes, which I'm sure there are several. Yeah. Instead of just saying yeah, we're going to ban guns, right? There was a mass shooting, let's ban a gun.
Yeah, that's just reacting to the symptom, because it's a lot. First of all, it's a lot more complicated because of all the issues, but it's a lot more scary with the idea that there are people, a growing number of people, that want to murder other people. They're so hateful, so envious that they just want to take so many people out before they take themselves out. That's a lot more of a complicated issue to deal with, and a lot of people don't want to deal with it. And it's scary, like I said. And so it's just easier just to blame the symptom and say, "Oh, just get rid of the guns, and we'll be fine." It's like, no, there are people who want to murder you. That's a lot darker and frightening, and you got to deal with that. And a lot of it, as we've talked, and I think there's kind of a theme that emerges in a lot of episodes we've done for the show, is this growing theme of just nihilism, just people who lack meaning in their lives, that are they just think life is completely meaningless, and they're just overcome with so much suffering that they just want to inflict that onto other people. It's just this evilness. And I think a lot of the pop culture we've seen has not transmitted the values that's really necessary, I think, for a culture to really prosper. when they keep promoting things that, like we were saying, I think it was the last episode, but you look at how many protagonists in these big 1 hour dramas are sociopaths and psychopaths, and these are the people that we're supposed to root for because everybody else is, terrible. It's like we were talking about Thelma and Louise last weekend, just like how they just devolve into sociopaths and just do all these horrible things, and we're supposed to be cheering for them because men are sexist. It's
Right.
like, yeah, so
And it
it's just,
worked. I
yeah,
cheered for them mightily.
yeah. So I think it all has an effect. It kind of accumulates.
Yeah, I think well, somebody in the chat says root causes, LOL. Well, yeah, I think there are many root causes. I think one is I see people are throwing out, suggestions in the chat like lack of male role models. Absolutely. We're in a culture that is telling boys and men that masculinity is toxic,
Mhm.
and if you go to get therapy and try to get help, the APA is now telling therapists to talk about toxic masculinity with their male clients. So you're going to the doctor to get help and they're giving you the same poison that you're getting in the culture. And and then I think there's this, a lot of it, as it always does for me, and I think for you as well, comes down to the deterioration of the family.
Yeah.
The
I
destruction.
mean, yeah, like I said, there's a lot of different things, and to your point, we live in a society where there's a lot of young men who aren't having a lot of success with women, but they live in a society that's telling them that they're sexist and they're evil and they have privilege, and a lot of them don't have money, don't have any luck with women, and so there's this natural anger that arises when you're fighting, struggling to get by, and society's telling you that you're bad, and that's not it's not what you're experiencing, and so I think it bubbles and unfortunately comes out in a way that some of these people that we just talked about
Yeah.
exhibit it.
In the chat, Freethinker301 says, personal opinion, I think religion really helps counter toxic nihilism. And that's the other thing. I agree with you, Freethinker. I think it does. I think I've come to believe that everyone has a belief system. Everyone has something they worship, even if they don't know consciously, if they haven't evaluated their own behavior long enough to see what it is that they worship. I think everyone does. And I know even people here at Deprogram will disagree with me, but I think killing God, to put that in quotes, as Nietzsche talked about, I think it's had a devastating impact on culture. Jordan Peterson talks about this all the time. Anyway, Freethinker says, when you believe your actions will be judged or that evil is objective, it really centers you and keeps you leveled. Yes, that evil is objective. Don't trust anyone who tells you there's no good and evil. That's a person who wants to do or justify evil. Here's another potential root cause. Captain Palsy says, Keri, do you think he could have been on loads of psych meds? In this particular case, the last one that I covered, Randy Stair, I don't believe he was on psych meds. I could be wrong, but he did take a lot of Benadryl before he went out and committed the mass shooting. And people have speculated about why he may have done that, but he had a ton of Benadryl in his system. Damian Scott says, I was diagnosed with Asperger's and I've been thinking for years that these movements were exploiting autistic boys. They are. And now if you look in a lot of the parents of trans kids groups that I'm in on Facebook, you will see them, the parents there, which is very much an orthodoxy. They're only allowed to react one way to their kids coming to them and saying, I'm trans. And, they must immediately validate, they must immediately transition and start pushing towards medical transition. And otherwise you get kicked out of the group. And in these groups or cults, instead of noticing that there's a lot of autistic kids that are now saying they're trans and thinking, hey, wait a minute, are autistic kids being targeted, or are they more vulnerable to thinking that they're trans? Or are they more vulnerable to this ideology? Instead of thinking that, they're now posting articles and links and stuff about how autistic people tend to be trans. like it's like a natural, Yeah, there's some autistic people tend to be trans. Like, they don't question it. They don't question why that might be the case. It's just disturbing to watch. Anyway, thanks, Damien, for the comment. I love your hat. I wonder if that's a photo of you. If it is, I love it. Alan Scott says, any large number of people have weirdos. True, but it's the connection to a kid's product that disturbs me.
Mm-hmm. That's the too, because like if you're someone who grew up with that, then I can kind of understand that, because I get nostalgia for like Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. But sometimes I'm like, why do people have such a strong connection with something that it didn't really grow up with, and that's intended for children?
Yeah, I have no idea. It's that. Well, I was recently reading about transmaxing. Have you heard of this?
No.
This I'm reading about because there's this other sentiment that I see growing among some incels. Again, these are guys in the like involuntary celibate community, which tends to have a lot of hatred of women. It's this sort of deeply resentful, like, we desire women, but women don't want us, and therefore we hate all women. And there have been other mass shooters who've come from that community, like Elliot Rodger. Well, in that community, like, some of these incels are now becoming trans and saying that they're women. And this is a one type of trans. This is not all trans people by any stretch of the imagination. This is one type of disturbed person who's now saying they're trans. And I've seen some of these posts that are on Reddit where you see them confessing about how much they hate what both desire and also hate and despise what they call cis women or biological women, like saying that they'll never be women. And so reading about that stuff has made me think, like, maybe if a young guy is feeling so disaffected, he's in a culture that's saying there's something wrong with masculinity, maybe online and Tumblr culture, whatever, YouTube culture, he's in this space where it's like, it's better to be part of an oppressed and marginalized group. And, the future is female, and there's all this positivity connected around being female or being trans, that maybe it's more attractive, that idea of like, hey, maybe what's wrong with me, it's not just that I'm different or on the spectrum or a nerd or a geek or an outsider in these different ways, or goth, or like we used to be. It's not that. It's that I'm born in the wrong body and I'm actually a little girl on the inside.
Yeah, and like we were saying earlier too, with the way society's treating young men, I mean, if you just transition to the other gender, then you're no longer being called part of the patriarch, the oppressive patriarch. You no longer have a bunch of pejoratives and venom being directed towards you. You're now celebrated. And I think that's very attractive for, a lot of people. It's just, things will be easier. You'll be able to advance yourself through, social hierarchies and through jobs more easier than if you're, just a straight white man.
Yes. You become part of a protected, glorified class of people. Free thinker, who, if I'm remembering correctly from the chat earlier, free thinkers trans, says, when you're desperate and lost, but then discover videos saying transitioning is the solution you've been seeking, it's not hard to buy into that. Yeah, I think that might be what's happening with some of these trans trenders, or incel trans, as you put it. Okay, well, there's other weirdos that I have on my list, but I don't know if any's going to get... We could just go down this rabbit hole all night. I think we should stop. It's getting a little too dark. We've already got the murder section. I will say there's another child predator I did have on the list, Gavin Crowell, who I was looking at. This guy who was treated gently by the judge, who part of what he did during grooming and getting this young girl to come along with him was giving her My Little Pony toys. And I mean, there's a bunch of things on this list. So all I'm going to say is if you sat through this dark episode, if you're a parent, if you're Gen X, if you think that My Little Pony is what it was when we were kids, it's not. And if you have kids who are into My Little Pony, it doesn't mean that anything bad's going on. I'd just say, like, just be aware of the messaging in the new series and the adult male fandom that has grown up around it, and just be aware of what your kid's doing online and who they're hanging out with and talking to. And if you've got a young male teenager or son who's into My Little Pony, like, and maybe they're a loner in other ways, I don't know, just pay extra attention. Tyler says, I wonder if this video will be demonetized. Probably. I said some of the words you're not supposed to say.
Yeah,
like,
I was trying to avoid
times.
saying it. So I was like, all right, Keri's going for it. So okay.
Yeah. Blastarian says, glad I made it through all of this. We need something funny as a pal. What do we get to watch that's going to make us laugh since we sat through all this darkness?
Well, one's a little cringe, so I don't know if you're gonna watch that. But also, we can look up some tattoos.
Let's do it. Here, you look
Yeah.
it up. You find something funny. I'll put a couple more chats on. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Robert saying it's LOL, I guess, because we're looking for something funny at the end. But yeah, we don't want to. Three Stooges, somebody says. Yeah. Have you seen the new Three Stooges? I'm just kidding.
Oh,
the new erotic Three Stooges. Oh, you guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Somebody says maybe Free Thinker should be a guest. Yeah, maybe. Hit me up. deprogrampod@gmail.com. And here, I'll just...
let's see. I just thought, let me see if I can pull this up. This was... All right. I don't know if this aged well or not, but I'm putting this... I just want to play the beginning. This is an old video. I want to say I saw this on E-Bombs World. Put this in the chat. I haven't watched this in years. I have no idea if it's still funny. At the time, I thought it was funny, but
we'll see if it holds up.
Yeah, just play a little bit of this.
You and I are funny because in the Venn diagram of our senses of humor, we have a big overlap. But then there's some things that only you find funny.
Yes,
that only I find funny. I was always funny if I play something for you and I was laughing and you're just like, and vice versa. Okay. I've got this pulled up now.
This was one of the first viral videos I saw.
How long ago did you see this?
It's got to be close to 20 years.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe 15. I don't know.
What'd you say?
Maybe 15.
Okay. Planet Unicorn.
In the year 2117, an 8-year-old gay boy named Shannon found a magic lamp. He was granted 3 wishes. The first, a fur jacket. The second, a flying car. And the third was a planet full of unicorns. This is the story of that planet. A gay boy wished for a planet full of unicorns. Planet unicorn, unicorn planet. Give it up for feathers. Ooh, Cadillac, and Tom Cruise. Oh, planet unicorn, hey.
Okay.
Hey.
Okay, first of all, this sounds like you. Did you do this?
I
wish. I've never seen this before. I'm going to continue.
Yummy. This is
Okay.
This ambrosia salad is good, Cadillac.
Yes, it is, Tom Cruise.
Mine's got too many cherries.
Mine doesn't have enough cherries.
No, you should have had some of mine.
I should have had some of yours.
Well, we can trade.
Hey,
I'd like.
I'm full. Let's go take a nap down near the Unicorn Falls.
Good
All right,
idea.
fine. Let's do your plan, Tom
I'm so
Cruise.
sleepy.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
We're here.
This is my favorite part of Planet Unicorn, the beautiful pink Unicorn Falls.
It's the prettiest shade of pink I've ever seen.
Hey, what about that nap?
Oh, thank you for reminding me.
Oh, now you're all good. Oh, that's time for sleep.
Let's cuddle.
I'm exhausted.
Hey, unicorns, it's me, Shannon, the boy who wished you into existence. Have fun. Take care of my planet. I'm gay. Goodbye.
That's stupid.
Hey, Cadillac, Tom Cruise, wake up.
What is it, Feathers?
I had the craziest dream about an 8-year-old boy.
Named Shannon?
Who wished us into existence?
Yeah, hey, we had the same dream.
We had the same dream.
Oh my god, look, the falls. They're brown.
That's an awful color. I don't like that color.
What happened? What's happening?
Look, we've got to do something.
That sounds dangerous.
Look, an 8-year-old gay boy wished us into existence and gave us life. The least we can do is maintain common law. We must fly
to the top of the falls.
This is so stupid.
Hey, you.
Stop that.
I'm gonna freeze him with my freezing beam.
Good work, Tom Cruise.
Look, it's fixed.
Yay!
Yay, I'm happy. There's one thing I don't understand. If a little gay boy wished us into existence, why would he wish for a villain to be here?
I guess we have a lot more to learn.
And a lot more to find out.
Hey, I'd like to find out where the nearest ambrosia field is.
Hey, you're right.
You have a one-track mind.
That's all there is to say about that.
Oh, this was a fun day. Unicorn, hey.
Okay, that was funny. The intro song was the best, though.
Yeah.
Is the intro song. Oh, goodness. The internet used to have, well, it still does, like so much silly stuff of just where you're like, wait, what are they even lampooning? There's just like random stuff thrown in.
I'm going to put the link to the tattoos.
Z Highness says, Mr. Chris and Keri, you're awesome.
You're awesome.
You're awesome. Hey.
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 Can we need to add that to our intro at the end to pop culture. Hey.
You're watching Pop Culture. Hey.
Hey.
Okay. This is the game you like to play. Is there a tattoo of that?
Oh, there's more than I have. There's so many.
Wow.
Is this one with Danny Trejo? There's one with Danny Trejo. That can't be real.
My Little Pony tattoos. Some of these are so hardcore. Like, look at these, where they feel like the whole limb tattooed, the arm or the leg.
There's one that had a shaved side of his head that had.
Wow.
Okay, look at that Danny Trejo. Oh, there's the shaved head one. But if you go to the middle of that row, there's the right beneath it is Danny Trejo.
Is that real?
That can't be real.
I don't think that's real.
Yeah, that can't be real.
It's a painting. Danny Trejo, My Little Pony painting. That's not real. But this is real. Brony alert. Oh gosh, there's a dirty word there. Sorry. Of course there is, because it's bronies. Of course there's something sexual there. No. Oh. I just recognized someone I know. Okay.
Oh. Oh.
Anyway. Just kind of froze.
Yeah.
This has been an exciting episode of Pop Culture. Really, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for hanging out with us in what was a dark episode, and thought it was important to do, though, just to see some of the dark side of the brony subculture. I know Hobbs is here with us, who is a brony. Maybe I could interview Hobbs and you could tell me what I got wrong. And I'm fully open to the idea that I'm a little too prejudiced against bronies now, because I've gone down this rabbit hole and read about so many of the creeps. But again, just wanted any parents, if your kids are watching My Little Pony, if they're in the community in some way online, just be aware of that it's not exactly the same My Little Pony that we were into when we were young. So that's it. Cool. Hobbs, I see your comment. Drop me an email, deprogrampod@gmail.com. Anything else, Misty Chris?
No. I'm gonna go cry in the shower now.
Sorry. You know what we need? We need a palate cleanse. We need a church advertisement. Here we go.
All go to church now.
Thank you guys for hanging out. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you to today's sponsor, the Church on the Square of Georgetown, Texas, which happens to be my church. My church is no longer allowed to advertise on Facebook, which is unfortunate because that's how I and a lot of other church members originally found them. They've been told that they violate community standards. There's no details there of what that means, but you guys know the score. Anyway, since they're not allowed to advertise, I'm here to give them a plug. You can find them online at thechurchonthesquare.org. You can also find videos of all the sermons and some other kinds of content on their YouTube page at Church on the Square. You can also join us. If you happen to be in the Georgetown, Texas area, we meet every Sunday at Ken's Guitars, that's K-E-N-Z, Ken's Guitars, right on the Georgetown Square. We meet outside, right on the square. Sometimes, if the weather's nice, you might find us there. You might find us outside in front of Ken's. But if you're local, I hope to see you.